Yo, how's it going, Vibe Tribe? My name is Parker, and I will be your guide today as I deliver you to your daily dose of vitamin V. So, today we got Buccaneers by Simple History. Um, Obviously, Buccaneer is, from what I understand, another word for pirate. So, it should be a fun video. I mean, pirates are a fun subject. Everybody, or most people, know that being a pirate wasn't all that it wasn't as fun as it sounds, and it probably sucked. But I mean, there might have been some parts about it that were cool. So maybe he will tell me about that. If you like this video, go ahead and hit like, spread it around to more people so more people get good vibes. And if you want, I have a free Discord in the link in the description. Spent a good amount of time setting it up. I think y'all really like it. We can go in there, head in there, hang out, and talk about topics after I'm done making a video about it, and then we can go further into that discussion, which is really cool. So if you're interested in the Discord, go ahead and join down there. It's free. Enough rambling for now. We're gonna go ahead and hop into the video and see what Buccaneers were like.
The so-called Golden Age of piracy started in the mid-17th century and lasted for nearly 100 years. During this time, pirates plagued the seven seas of the world as vulnerable merchant sailboats transported goods around the globe throughout the Age of Discovery. The very center of all this high-sea robbery and lawlessness was in the Caribbean Sea. This was a time of widespread plundering in the area, as the new world of the Americas was opening up as the French, Spanish, and British superpowers competed for control of the region and its valuable trade in gold and tobacco. Amongst all these conflicts were the Buccaneers. Though today the term is simply used as another name for pirates, in the early days of piracy it referred to a very separate and distinct group of seafaring bandits. The Buccaneers originated from a group of renegade Europeans.
So I guess Buccaneer is technically a different term than pirate. They're not. I guess they can't be 100% interchanged. I didn't really know that Buccaneer was its own class, but I guess he'll explain that more here.
Mostly French colonist hunters who were based in Jamaica and around Haiti. These impoverished settlers made a living hunting stray cattle and wild boar. They then cured the meat over a smoky fire, adding salt and vinegar as they did so. This dried meat was called boucané, and this was from where these settlers got their name. Yet despite this type of meat proving highly popular with passing ships, as it could be stored for months without any kind of
So they ate boucané and then got called Buccaneers. Makes sense.
Refrigeration, it nevertheless was hard for these buccaneers to make a decent living from it. So in time, they turned to piracy to supplement their living. At first, the French authorities who controlled the region turned a blind eye to their illegal activities, as it was mostly aimed at their rivals, the Spanish. Initially, their piracy was limited to them picking off any lost stragglers from a Spanish merchant convoy, and their preferred method of attack was to sail small boats with around 20 men up to the unlucky galleon at night, and then board it unseen, armed with cutlasses and flintlock pistols, catching the crew totally by surprise.
Dang, yeah. So that's a lot different than what you normally hear when you think about pirate fights. You think about big ships, maybe shooting cannons, dropping loading docks to get from one boat to the other, and that kind of raid. But yeah, I'm sure in real life none of that's very practical, and this is probably the smartest way to do it. Just kind of sneak up and get onto the boat itself, take it down from the inside. I mean, it makes sense, and especially if you're more skilled in combat and more battle ready up close, then I see why they went for stuff like this.
The Buccaneers proved to be vicious and brutal in combat, often carrying into battle the axes they used for cutting down trees, using them as terrifying hand-to-hand combat weapons, as well as being skilled with small arms. They looked a little different from the normal everyday pirates of the Caribbean, as they wore clothing influenced by their simple French peasant roots, favoring wide-brimmed, floppy hats, plain clothing with rudimentary fastenings void of any buckles or ornate buttons. Though the captains of their...
That's interesting. He said different from the normal pirates of the Caribbean. So I wonder if there were actual other big groups of pirates that were called pirates at the time, while these people were called Buccaneers. It's kind of interesting thinking that they would have two different names at the same time, or I guess people would probably see it as different groups if they're familiar with the differences between. I think he said these were. They originated from France, So maybe if, back in the day, people could actually tell that the Buccaneers were from France and then other pirates weren't, and they actually had their own kind of grouping. That's really interesting. I didn't think that they would have their own, name, but it's kind of cool.
Ships wore a red cloak and sash as a symbol of their rank and authority. Soon after the British seized the Spanish colony of Jamaica in 1665, the British authorities started to actually encourage the Buccaneers to attack Spanish, Dutch, and French shipping and settlements in the area.
Of course, the British did. Of course, they encouraged them to attack the French, the Spanish, and the Dutch. British would encourage anyone to attack the Spanish, the British, or the French, and the Dutch. I don't even think it mattered what group you were. If you weren't the Spanish, the French, or the Dutch, then Britain probably wanted you to attack the Spanish, the French, or the Dutch.
In the Caribbean region during the 1660s, the Dutch had the real monopoly of trade, something that bothered the other European powers trying to profit from trade in the area. The British issued letters of marque to the Buccaneers to attack the Dutch and later the French when they joined the Dutch side in the Second Anglo-Dutch War of 1665 to 1667. However,
1665 to 1667. He said that the Dutch had a monopoly over the trade. I wonder if that was the Dutch spice trade. I know that was a big thing for a long time. No. It was either the Dutch or Portugal. I don't remember. If you guys know who had the monopoly on the spice trade, and if you know if that was at this time, let me know, because some of my facts are spinning around in my head, and I don't know which one's which, so just let me know.
However, while they could not let the Buccaneers attack the Spanish, they knew their real interest was in looting, so they couldn't stop them from robbing their ships. The prize ships that everyone knew were full of riches from the Americas. The Buccaneers were also important in protecting the Jamaican island and to bring supplies and coins stimulating trade, so the British started to continuously use the Buccaneers' service on their behalf. The British governor even gave the Buccaneers safe anchorage in Kingston Harbor in Jamaica, as well as the Royal Navy, which provided movements and the locations of enemy shipping and colonies. But after the end of the Second Anglo-Dutch War and the Treaty of Breda in 1667, the British started to join forces with the Spanish against the rising force of the French in that region. Ultimately, the British authorities found the Buccaneers to be too unruly, burning any ship or colony they captured too far often, as well as being too fond of slaughtering all those who stood against them. The Buccaneers emerged as a major power in the area. Their ranks had swelled by people from all different nationalities, consisting mostly of escaped convicts and slaves, but also by soldiers of fortune and deserters. In the course of the late 17th century, due to the changes of rivalries between the European powers disputing control over Caribbean trade, the Buccaneers were slowly absorbed into the network of battles and conflicts between those countries. By the last decade of the century, they were no longer a disrupting force. For some time during the 1670s and 1680s, with the political situation stabilizing in the Caribbean, the Buccaneers found themselves with fewer and fewer allies and in desperation turned to attacking settlements and ships regardless of nationality. The same reason that made them strong now began to make them weak, as there were less and less new areas they could attack and loot. Many of the Buccaneers' men and captains were captured and executed. The preferred method of the British was to hang them and place their bodies in an iron cage called a gibbet. They were then publicly displayed by being hung up high in the air by an iron chain and left there on public display until all the flesh had rotted off the corpse, a process that could take as much as 2 years.
Yeah, I guess they weren't messing around. They were trying to send a message against these Buccaneers, like, if you want to be a pirate in our waters, you can, but you'll end up like this. So it's up to you. You know what I mean?
The last significant raid by the Buccaneers was in 1697. This was when the French, who were in a war against the Grand Alliance formed by England, Spain, and the Dutch, out of desperation enlisted their help to attack the wealthy Spanish port of Cartagena on the northern coast of Colombia in South America. The raid went exceptionally well, as the Spanish were caught completely off guard, and the joint French and Buccaneer fleet left with a sizable fortune in plundered goods. But then, the French managed to swindle the Buccaneers out of their share of the loot and went back to France. The infuriated Buccaneers returned to Cartagena and ransacked it again, but this time, without the French to restrain them, they went on a rampage, carrying out mass murders and beatings, as well as burning down a large part of the port itself.
Yikes.
Though shortly afterward, at the end of the 17th century, the Buccaneers, as a distinct and separate entity, had completely disappeared, and the term would forevermore be merely used as an alternate name for pirates.
Okay, so nowadays, now that, so much time has passed, I guess it's normal to just interswap the two terms. Okay. Is it the end of the video? Still got like a minute left. Okay, I think, is this literally just a minute of them going, ha 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 ha? Yarr. Yeah, I think so. Okay, I think that video is over. I still enjoyed it anyway. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. Like I said before, get it spread to more people. Check out the Discord, 100% free in the description. And that's about it for me today. Love y'all and stay beautiful.